the psychological benefit of pursuing your passions. I think that's the key, because financial freedom, financial independence is cool if you have something to go towards. Like if you have an interesting hobby, an interesting thing, and that's, to me, that's what life's all about. I have my shirt, "Do What Matters," like
Yeah, I like it.
that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, what are your
Yes.
priorities, what are your values, what are your interests, who do you want to contribute to, and then let's orient our life. Let's make our schedule such that every day, every week, we don't have to worry about
Mhm.
money anymore. We're just worried
Yeah.
about doing the things we want to do that excite us and get us
Yeah.
up in the morning.
All right. It is time for some controversy, some conflict, and some disagreement. Coach Carson and I are going to talk about whether or not real estate investors should focus on having some type of small business, maybe a side hustle on the side, or if you should just focus on making as much money as you can in your W-2. Coach, you're the guest, you're the show. Why don't you kind of paint the vision of why you think people should also have a cash flow business on the side?
So I think we might not disagree 100% on this one, but here's the
Okay.
deal. Like, rental properties are awesome. They eventually can produce cash flow. Like, I've had consistent cash flow that grows and grows and grows over time, so that I could actually just live off that. That's the goal. Most of us want that, right? But
Agreed.
here's been my reality. Like, from the 21 years of investing, from the very beginning, I've always had some other source of cash flow other than rental properties. And so to agree partly with you on this, initially, it's totally fine for a lot of people if it's a W-2 job. I think that's what I'm talking about here. Like, you have your rentals, you have your W-2 job, but the transition point is, like, I've always had like a side hustle, some kind of skill that you can sell in the market. So that could be consulting. That could be, hey, I flip something, go buy something here and flip it on the side. I used to flip houses. So that was my thing. But I think, especially the people with the W-2 job, I think we have this idea that we're just going to pile up all the cash we need, and then one day we're going to make this transition where we just depend on our rental income. And psychologically, that is like a cliff. It's a really big gap. So somebody like me, who's always been hustling, always been making like 3 or 4 different ways to make income in addition to rental properties, like that little jump that I had to make to live off rental income was like jumping over a little ditch. It was not a cliff. It was just like, hey, I've got other sources of income. If this doesn't work this month, I could go back and do it. And so what I've noticed, like, coaching people in this like late transition to actually live off the rental income, that if they have these other sources of income, if they've built the skill of having side hustles, of having a consulting gig, then when you pull the plug on the job and you actually live off the rental income, it's not so, you have like 3 parachutes. It's not just your rental income. So I think that's the big picture. Feel free to add some nuance to that or disagree, I think, but that's it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in that I do agree with. I wasn't sure I would, but let's kind of step through this. I think there is, simply said, there's employees and entrepreneurs. It's something I've talked a lot about on my channel. I was naturally an employee. It's how my mind works. But I also think there's a lot of people who are natural entrepreneurs. Right or wrong, I put you in that category, right? You're always thinking about, how to create a new business or a new side hustle. And I think if you are naturally an entrepreneur, I think the right thing to do is go be a rock star at, I'll call it, a small business. And then what you do is you take the cash flow and you buy assets. It's kind of the Grant Cardone model, just at a different scale, right? What does Grant Cardone do? He sells a lot of education, a lot of this, and then he parks his cash in real estate. That's a tremendous idea. I also agree, for the employees, it should be the same mindset, right? We should go do whatever we can to make more money at our day job, get raises, bonuses, go to new employers, whatever it is. But you also got to live below your mean. I know plenty of people that make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. They can't rub 2 nickels together. That's on you, right? You're the one choosing to spend that money. So you're absolutely right. I think you need to have a transition plan if you're an employee. And to your point, personal experience, one of the most depressing parts of my life, like suicidal depression thoughts, like you're useless, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not valuable, Michael, was the first 3 to 4 weeks after I left my W-2. It was a complete, free fall, because I wasn't filling my cup. So I totally agree with you. If you're a W-2 employee, you're killing it. You're buying one asset a year, one asset every 2 years. please realize in today's environment with today's technology, you can create something little on the side. It doesn't even have to make a lot of money, but just do something that you're passionate about. Classic cars, Cabbage Patch Kids, weightlifting, 100-mile runs, whatever you're excited about, create something on the side so that when you do get to that point, you have a parachute, you have 2, you have 3 parachutes. Because again, it wasn't the money because I was good. It was, what am I doing with my time? You still have 24 hours in the day. And if you're not doing anything, at least for me, I was like, I'm a loser. So please don't be like me.
Yeah, I think there's the psychological parachutes and the money parachutes. And it sounds like in your case, just from I've read your book and know that we've talked about that transition. For you, the money wasn't the stress for you. It was like the void of, what am I going to do with my life, and how am I going to contribute, and what am I good at, and
the mission.
You pulled the rug out from under your mission in your job, and then all of a sudden there's nothing to replace that with. That's a panic-inducing place to be in, right?
It was horrible. So yeah. I agree. And one of the things that I think is more obvious today, and maybe I've never appreciated it until this conversation, it's never been easier to be a solopreneur.
Yes.
There's 100%. Value in that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about this a lot because I have young kids or they're teenagers, all about to be teenagers. And, I'm trying to teach them different things, but one of the most important kind of survival skills in this economy is like, you got to have skills.
Yes.
You got from the time you're 13 years old to the time you're 85 years old. If you have skills that are marketable, you never have a lot of stress about money. And I've just been thinking about that because I have not come from the W-2 kind of path. And I've just noticed over and over again, this gap. The psychological gap is big sometimes too, but there's also, Michael, folks that like, they're ready to leave their job, but let's make real numbers here. They want to replace their income. They're making $200,000 a year and their real estate produces like $80,000 a year. And so they're like, oh crap, like that's not enough. Like I agree. So they're not ready to pull the plug, yet they're miserable in their job. And so what if they could do this little side gig and let's think about the skills. They look at their job, they say, here's the things I do in my W-2. I'm really good with spreadsheets. I am good at accounting, or I'm good at sales or whatever. And you just on the side, set up your shingle of your solo entrepreneur thing. And I'm not talking about having employees. You just have a PayPal link where people can pay you, and you have a little landing page with like a headline, pay me, and that's it. Like you're in business, there you are. But then you have this value proposition where you're like, hey, I can help you with spreadsheets at $100 per hour, or I can do this thing. I just think that's such a missing ingredient that a lot of people don't have confidence in. And if you don't test it out while you still have your W-2, I know it's not going to be your main, and you got a lot of other ways to make money, but if you could do that and you can make an extra $30,000, per year, doing it part-time, 5-10 hours a week, or if you can eventually make $60,000, $100,000, like it's possible to do this little part-time gig that's fun, working 10 to 20 hours per week, and kind of fill that gap so that you because then you're not worried about paying for the thing like the health insurance. People are, oh God, I got health insurance in my job. I can't leave my job. Well, health insurance has a cost. Like you could get a full health insurance plan for that has all the bells and whistles for $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Yeah. So I have it. Olivia and I have it.
Yeah, so just go make $3,000 a month. If you're worried about health insurance, put your shingle out and go make the money, and then you can leave your job. So this is, I think the point is, like, rental investing is awesome, but I've never had a time in my life where I also didn't have other income streams, and it gives you such a flexibility and a peace of mind that I want other people to think about that.
No, and again, I think the other thing, again, it's absolutely the money side is great. The other thing for me is you could build a brand or a community. Again, what I want people to realize, if you're 40 or higher, you have likely loved something for decades. I'm talking a hobby, a passion, an interest, and there's value in that. And the other thing that I want people to realize is there are other people like you who have the same joy and excitement. And then there are some people just starting out. If you put out one video or one newsletter or one something on your passion, once a week for 50, that's 50 videos. You're going to start building a tribe of other people that love that thing. And there's value in being in a community, right? So Very
You
powerful.
and you can even start even smaller. You could just add value. Like if you're in the ORT, one rental at a time
ORaaT.
community, ORaaT,
Yeah.
you could post in there consistently. Be a value add to Michael, or if you're in my community, be that person who's always helping people out, and you get your own personal brand even without having to do that, and you're known as this person, and then you can start your own podcast or your own video. So it's
For
just
sure.
it's such a cool time to be able to have your own personal brand, and it's
I
never
agree.
been easier to get paid for that too. Like I've just been amazed at how all the different like Stripe and PayPal and all these things that are so easy just to press a button, you make money. Venmo,
Yeah.
you just use Venmo, whatever. So there's no excuses from the tech side of things. It's more about, do you see yourself as a business? Like Jay-Z, like I'm a businessman. Like, hey, I'm not a businessman. This is me. Like this brand, whoever
Yeah.
you are, like you are a little brand or a big brand, and you can make money with that.
No, I mean, the other thing we need to realize, again, as an ex-accountant, right? I was an accountant coming out of college. You guys need to realize that the IRS tax code is not a penalty-based system. It's a reward system. And if you don't know this already, it rewards business owners. You can, in a very simple world, you could take what is below the line, post-tax, and move it above the line or pre-tax on some expenses. I'll use a cell phone as an example. If you're going to use your cell phone as your recording device, which I used for the first 1,000 videos, you could write off at least your monthly service and probably the phone. Again, talk to your CPA for those details. And again, that's real savings. You could take that against pre-tax dollars instead of post-tax dollars. It's a reward system, folks. What do you think?
Yeah, and retirement accounts too. That's another one. I know that's not a expense, but that's something that once you have your own business, you can set aside money and for earned income. And solo 401ks are really cool. Like you had, like even if you didn't want to spend the money, if you made 40 grand and you could put it into a solo 401k that's tax deductible, and then that grows. I mean, those things are pretty awesome, and they're easy to do too. So tons and tons of benefits to having a little business, and it's not the cost of doing it. You don't have to set up an LLC. You don't have to do all that fancy stuff. Just have a separate bank account. Have a little spreadsheet, and bam, you're in business.
There you go. There's so much value in this. So again, do you like I've always said it, but I don't know if it's correct. So I want your opinion. If you're a 40-year-old and you've liked something for more than a decade, don't you think there's a brand of business in there regardless of what it is?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. And whether you want to monetize it, like, is a personal choice. Some people just like the art of it and the creativity of it. But I think, to your point, I think we started this conversation talking about money, but the psychological benefit of pursuing your passions, I think that's the key, because financial freedom, financial independence is cool if you have something to go towards. Like if you have an interesting hobby, an interesting thing, and to me, that's what life's all about. I have my shirt, "Do What Matters,"
I
that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, what are your priorities? What are your values? What are your interests? Who do you want to contribute to? And then let's orient our life. Let's make our schedule such that every day, every week, we don't have to worry about money anymore. We're just worried about doing the things we want to do that excite us and get us up in the morning.
Doing what matters. I love that. I need to get one of those shirts. Again, you got me? Oh, you're the man. That's awesome. And again, it's just, I think Gary Vee says this all the time. And this conversation has really helped me anchor on it, right? You might be miserable making 200 grand a year, but could you be excited making 90 or 95 grand a year in what you love? I mean, that just hits different, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's never been easier to do that. I'm a broken record on this, but it's my life. It's what you're doing right now too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I agree. Let's be clear. I'm a W-2 employee who has stumbled into this entrepreneurial world by accident.
Yeah. It
is amazing. No employees, nothing. And it's seemingly every month, every 6 weeks, it's like, oh, I could do that too. I could do that too. It's wild to think about.
Well, for a self-proclaimed non-business guy who's a W-2, I'm pretty impressed, Michael. I'm pretty impressed by what you got going on. So let's not downplay you too much now.
It wasn't natural. It's been uncomfortable every day, but I will admit it is exciting, and I get it. It's fun.
Yeah,
it is.
It's fun
to think about. Coach, you're amazing. You have a newsletter, right?
I do. Yeah. Every week I send an email newsletter. I don't talk about this enough, but I have my podcast at YouTube every Monday. There's a new episode, but I also share a lot in my newsletter, and that's pretty much my main way to connect with people. And you can reply to the email and just say hello to me. I like to hear from you. So
Nice.
yeah, if you haven't done that, check out coachcarson.com/newsletter. You get a freebie there. There's a free toolkit with some cool spreadsheets and some other fun stuff. So you can check it out.
There you go. coachcarson.com/newsletter. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
Good to see you, Mike. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.